Okay, we're going to look at a couple of clips, and I know sometimes, when you're attacking someone for reasons of politics, sometimes there are really, really good reasons to attack them, and sometimes stuff seems a little bit nitpicky. I maintain that what we're about to look at is very important because he is one of the most important people in the world making decisions about the virus and when we should be going back and how we should be fighting the virus and what we should be doing about it. And the level of misinformation and just pure raw ignorance he has this late in the game about the virus is absolutely terrifying. So while it may seem like, oh, he's misspeaking, I don't think he's not misspeaking at all. He has no idea how a virus works. So we're going to take a look at two clips, and then so I'm going to show the clip, and then we're going to break it down because it's easy to miss exactly how dumb a lot of this is unless we look at the specific sentences and phrases that he's saying, and we're going to break it down into those individual pieces and talk about them. And really see, has he been paying attention? I mean, it's almost the middle of April, right? It's Good Friday here. This is months after he's been getting daily briefings about the coronavirus and the pandemic and what do we need to do about it. He's talking to experts on a daily basis, and yet clearly has no idea what a virus is.
Brilliant enemy. They develop drugs like the antibiotics. You see it. Antibiotics used to solve every problem. Now, one of the biggest problems the world has is the germ has gotten so brilliant that the antibiotic can't keep up with it. And they're constantly trying to come up with a new. People go to a hospital and they go for a heart operation. That's no problem, but they end up dying from problems. You know the problems I'm talking about. There's a whole genius to it. We're fighting, not only is it hidden, but it's very smart, okay? It's invisible, and it's hidden, but it's very smart.
Okay, so I know we've all been sort of desensitized to this idea that he's going to say really dumb things. And, oh, well, that's just Trump. This is the president of the United States. We cannot get desensitized to the fact that the president of the United States is saying things this dumb when he is the person making choices about how the whole country is supposed to respond to things. So let's break it down and have a look.
They develop drugs like the antibiotics. You see it. Antibiotics used to solve every problem.
Okay, antibiotics never solved every problem because antibiotics only work on bacteria. The pandemic is based on a virus. Antibiotics have never worked on viruses. They work on bacteria. So if you're thinking that an antibiotic is going to save us in this situation, what have you been doing for the last few months? How do you possibly think that an antibiotic should have anything to do with what we're talking about? We are not talking about a bacterial infection. We're talking about a viral infection. And yes, some people, when their bodies are beat down from the virus, end up getting a bacterial infection as well, so they might end up with some antibiotics, but that has nothing to do with the original problem, which is a viral infection. The antibiotics will do absolutely zero to a viral infection.
The germ has gotten so brilliant that the antibiotic can't keep up with it, and they're constantly trying to come up with a new.
Okay, so I didn't cut him off in the middle of his sentence. He never went back to it. In the middle of a new what? What is, where were you going with that? It's totally unclear where he was going. But he seems to be building up the virus as being a genius and being very intelligent. And I don't know if he's doing that because he sees the virus as his adversary. So he really wants to build up how powerful his adversary is because then it makes him seem more powerful. I don't get what's going on, but a virus is not genius. A virus is not intelligent. A virus is not even a thinking thing. It has it has no brain. It has no mind. It doesn't think about anything. It is not a genius, or is it intelligent, right? It's not strategizing against Trump while they play a game of chess. It's just a virus that gets handed around. And by letting us all walk around and not social distance earlier, that virus was spreading. We could have cut that spreading if we had just gone straight to the social distancing. We're not up against a genius foe right here. And I think what he's saying when he talks about I think he's talking about evolution, where you try to fight something and then the virus evolves and then you fight it and evolves. I think that's what he's getting at, is about evolution, but he clearly doesn't understand that. He thinks the virus is some sort of intelligent genius who is trying to outsmart him. It doesn't make any sense.
There's a whole genius to it. We're fighting, not only is it hidden, but it's very smart, okay? It's invisible and it's hidden, but it's very smart.
I mean, it sounds like something out of an action movie. It's very smart. It's genius. It's invisible. I mean, he's always bringing up the fact that this thing is invisible, like it has some kind of superpower. That's how a virus works. They are very, very small, and so we can't see them with our eyes. That's something most of us got comfortable with when we were about 6 years old. Yeah, it's invisible. It's not smart. This is a reaction to Trump talking about when are things going to get opened up? When are we going to go back to normal? And it's a very, very big decision that he needs to make. Obviously, lives hang in the balance. Thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives hang in the balance. So it is a big decision. And he's being asked, when are you going to make this decision? Or how are you going to make this decision? And so he's being asked, how are you going to make this decision?
President, there's obviously a lot of interest in how you're going to make that decision. What?
It's a very big decision.
What?
I don't know that I've had a bigger decision than that when you think, right?
I would think.
I mean, think of that decision. Somebody said it's totally up to the president. I saw this morning. It's totally up, and it is. I don't know that I've had a bigger decision, but I'm going to surround myself with the greatest minds, not only the greatest minds, but the greatest minds in numerous different businesses, including the business of politics and reason. And we're going to make a decision, and hopefully it's going to be the right decision. I will say this. I want to get it open as soon as we can. We have to get our country open, Jeff.
Can you say, sir, what metrics you will use to make that decision?
The metrics right here. That's my metrics. That's all I can do. I can listen to 35 people. At the end, I've got to make a decision. And I didn't think of it until yesterday. I said, this is a big decision. But I want to be guided. I'm going to be guided by them. I'm going to be guided by our vice president. I'm going to make a decision based on a lot of different opinions. Some will maybe disagree, and some I'd love to see it where they don't disagree. Will there be risks? There's always going to be a risk that something can flare up. There's always going to look at what's happening where countries are trying to get open and there's a flare up and they'll go. But I'd like the flare-up to be very localized so that we can control it from a local standpoint without having to close. There's always a risk. This is genius that we're fighting. We're fighting this hidden enemy, which is genius, okay? It's genius. The way it's attacked so many countries at so many different angles. And I mean, you take a look at what's going on. And the greatest doctors in the world, I think they're close, by the way, but they haven't figured it out yet. Look what it's done to some people. I mean, some people it's grabbed, and it's a horrible way to go. You want to know the truth? It's a horrible, and then other people it hardly has an impact on. We talked about it. It's sniffles. It's less. They don't even know they had anything. And some people. I looked at New York this morning, and I look at what's happening and the amount of people that are dying, and dying, violently dying. It's a very tough adversary, but we're going to win, and we're going to win it. We're going to win it very decisively. I'm going to have to make a decision, and I only hope to God that it's the right decision. But I would say, without question, it's the biggest decision I've ever had to make.
So he's being asked, how are you going to make this decision? And if you look closely, right, a lot of times when Trump answers something, it's this rambling train of thought speech, which obviously doesn't sound very coherent. But sometimes, like in this answer, he holds it together enough where if you're not really listening, he sounds like he might be giving a smart answer. It's kind of like when you listen to Limbaugh or Hannity. They sound really smart unless you actually listen to what they're saying. But if you're just kind of doing something else and not paying attention, they sound like they're making very intelligent thoughts. But when you stop and listen, you go, oh, this is madness. This doesn't make any sense at all. That's what Trump's doing here.
President, there's obviously a lot of interest in how you're going to make that decision. What?
It's a very big decision.
What?
I don't know that I've had a bigger decision than that when you think, right?
I would think.
I mean, think of that decision. Somebody said it's totally up to the president. I saw this morning. It's totally up, and it is. I don't know that I've had a bigger decision.
This is a situation where Trump does this a lot. You ask him and he makes it about himself, right? It's this narcissist where it's always about him. So this is a tough question because tens to hundreds of thousands of lives hang in the balance. And what does he seem most concerned about? He wants us all to know this is a really big decision and he gets to make it. He is the one. He's the only one. People have been telling him that he gets to make the decision and he wants to make sure we know it's all up to him. All of our lives are in his hands. And he just wants us to know that absolutely without a doubt that he gets to make the decision. It's just pure narcissism coming through. There's no discussion about lives in that answer. It's just, hey, everyone, I want you to know how big of a decision this is, and I get to make it.
But I'm going to surround myself with the greatest minds, not only the greatest minds, but the greatest minds in numerous different businesses, including the business of politics and reason. And we're going to make a decision, and hopefully it's going to be the right decision. I will say this. I want to get it open as soon as we can. We have to get our country open, Jeff.
So he always does this when he's asked about how are you going to make the decision? What are you going to do? He always kind of gets you thinking that he's going to tell us, yeah, I'm going to talk to the experts and the scientists and they're going to tell me what to do. And then he always comes in with, I'm going to ask some business people too. I'm going to ask the greatest minds, not just the scientists' greatest minds, but also the business and economists' greatest minds. Yeah, the economy is important, but you just get the sense when he's talking, he's just not that concerned about what the scientists are saying, right? He's always pushing, we need to get things open. We need to get the country open. And you can just kind of tell who he's going to be listening to when he makes these decisions, even though he says he's going to be listening to everyone. And then as we'll hear, he also said, well, at the end of the day, I'm just kind of going to make the decision what I feel like.
Can you say, sir, what metrics you will use to make that decision?
The metrics right here. That's my metrics. That's all I can do.
So, yeah, I don't know. What do you even say to something like that? A metric is a measurement that you're supposed to use to determine something. That's what a metric is. So pointing to your head and saying that's a metric, I don't think Trump knows what that word means. I don't think he knows what a metric is. He's basically just saying, well, I'm going to have this gut feeling and I'm going to go with it. I know I should be listening to metrics. I know I should be listening to scientists. I know I should be doing this. I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. I mean, that's the track record that he's got. That's what he usually argues for. And that's what he's saying in these press briefings, is he's just going to go with what he feels is the right thing. So the answer to the question really should have been no metrics used at all, right? Pointing to your head and saying that's a metric is really saying no metrics.
I can listen to 35 people. At the end, I've got to make a decision. And I didn't think of it until yesterday. I said, this is a big decision.
You didn't think of it until yesterday that this is a big decision? We've been on lockdown for weeks. You've been dealing with this since January, and it just occurred to you yesterday. Okay, we're at Good Friday, so we're in the middle of April almost. It just occurred to you yesterday that this was a big decision. Why would you say something like that? Why, even if it's true, why would you say something like that? Oh, it just occurred to me this is a pretty big decision I got to make. Yeah, we're all waiting to make sure that you're going to make it for the right reasons and don't end up killing more people than need to be killed. Kind of a big decision. Kind of a big one.
This is genius that we're fighting. We're fighting this hidden enemy, which is genius, okay? It's genius. The way it's attacked so many countries at so many different angles. And I mean, you take a look at what's going on. And the greatest doctors in the world, I think they're close, by the way, but they haven't figured it out yet.
Okay, again with the hidden genius, he's still amazing to him. Trump doesn't understand what a virus is, again, right? So they're not just going to come up with a pill that you can take and totally take care of this. We're going to be in this mess until we have immunizations, right? Immunizations, we've been told from the very beginning by the experts, take 12 to 18 months at the fastest. So if you assume they've been working on this hopefully for a couple of months, that means we're looking at 10 to 14 more months to get this stuff done. or 10 to 16 more months ahead of us. But Trump just doesn't believe that because he's ignoring the science anyway. So even though Fauci has said numerous times, 12 to 18 months in order to get a vaccine out, Trump seems to be thinking, oh, they're just going to make a pill. And once you take the pill, it takes care of it. That's not how it works, right? This is not a bacteria. Antibiotic is not going to fix it. This is a virus. We're going to need immunizations, right? And that takes time. They're not about to have this figured out. It's not going to happen in the next week or two where they come up with some magic pill. That's not how it works. He doesn't understand this. This is terrifying that this is the person making the big decisions.
I'm going to have to make a decision, and I only hope to God that it's the right decision. But I would say without question, it's the biggest decision I've ever had to make.
I don't know. I'm very skeptical. This isn't fair, but I kind of wonder if someone fed him that line about, I can only hope to God that it's the right decision. That sounds to me like someone told him that before he went out there. But maybe it's his own. I can't say for sure. So maybe he came up with that on his own. But I think there's a couple things we need to think about here, because it is a big decision, but we don't want to make it bigger than it actually is. So it's a big decision because when the president comes out and he says, yes, you can all stop social distancing now, a lot of people are going to. But a lot of people aren't going to stop just because the president says so, right? Many states, I'm in California, we were one of the first states to go on lockdown, and it is, if you look at a state our size, we're doing better than you would expect for a state as big as populous as California. Other states like Florida decided to wait around because Trump didn't specifically tell them to go on lockdown. But if you think about it, most of the states on lockdown are on orders from the governor of the state. So if President Trump comes out and says something different, that doesn't change the fact that the states can still say, no, we're going to hunker down a little bit longer because we think if we send everyone out, they're just going to infect each other again and we'll see this big blow up. This is part of the issue. So yes, while what the president says is hugely important because many states are just going to do whatever he says, he's not actually in control of all this. He has certain parts of this epidemic that he's in control of, right? The stockpile he's in control of and deciding who can come in and out of the country and things like this. But if your governor still says you're on lockdown, Trump's not changing that, right? But there'll be some states like Florida who just do whatever Trump tells them to do, and that could be very dangerous for the state of, say, Florida, or these other states who didn't want to lock down right away. They wanted to continue having parties and spreading the disease around. So it's important because he's the president of the country, but also, there also are the governors looking out for each state. So we need to remember that and keep that in mind. Okay, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you can check out all the new content as it becomes available. See you later.